welcome to the Life of Learning podcast. I'm Justus Frank, and yes, today I'm going to be tackling the word offended and whether or not it is actually a valid concept, whether it's actually a rational concept even. The reason why this came up for me was that yesterday I did a podcast titled Speaking the Truth in Love, and it was all about gentle assertiveness. In particular, the word assertiveness gets hard rap at times because people sort of think that being assertive means you're being arrogant, that you're being attacking someone. But as I made the point yesterday, it's actually not about attacking someone. It is simply about speaking the truth, being honest, and about taking responsibility for your own thoughts, your own feelings, for your actions, for your wants, for your needs. And speaking those honestly. So let's have a look at this word offended. So what happens when you are offended? Basically, someone makes some sort of criticism regarding you or some other part that you see as being part of who you are, and the person who is offended has a negative feeling, shall we say. Doesn't make them feel good, and often it makes them angry, and it makes them angry towards the person who said the criticism. When it comes to this, I find that at the end of the day, this isn't a very rational way to think about this whole thing, because there's three responses that would be the rational way of going about being offended, and none of them involve highly charged emotional outbursts. So the first case is if someone makes some sort of criticism of you, is to realize that actually what they are saying is true. So they've been able to perceive something about you, about maybe your character or something that you've done, and they've voiced a criticism, and they've actually got the facts correct, and they're speaking the truth. Now that of course doesn't necessarily feel nice to realize those things about you, but the reaction if someone says something true is to actually be humble. And yes, it doesn't feel nice realizing that there's things you need to work on in your life, and there's some maybe valid criticisms about who you are. The problem isn't with the other person. They've actually just spoken the truth, and the problem is actually something that you need to work on. Now obviously, okay, as I said the other day, people can speak the truth and be honest and still do it in a loving way rather than in an attacking way. But let's think about the second case. So the second case, if someone makes a criticism of you, is that what they've said is maybe slightly ambiguous, or they're partially correct, or they're partially incorrect, or they haven't quite got the full story. In which case, the rational response would be to go, they don't fully understand. They've got something wrong. So what you can do is you can go and talk to that person and say to them, hey, I hear you have these criticisms of me, and I don't think that you're quite right regarding this, or can you back up what you said? And again, if you do find that what they've said is actually more or less true, then again you can take that on board, be humble, and learn from that. And though if what they've said is incorrect, in which case, if they don't have any backing behind what they've said, then again you can tell them that, and that's a criticism that you are giving back to them, and then it's their chance to respond, whether they will respond to your criticism of them, and whether they will take that on board and learn from it. If they are just intent on slandering you, and then we get to the third option, which is if someone who makes a criticism, they might be just making that criticism to slander you, to basically insult you in some sort of way. In which case, their main aim isn't truth. Their main aim is exactly to insult you, to slander you, to put you down. And the reaction here should be that instead of getting and having these bad feelings of anger towards them, the response that we should have is one of, wow, okay, this person really doesn't have a rational way of going about their comments, and I'm really losing respect for that person. And that's ultimately what it does. If somebody just slanders someone with no backing behind what they're saying and behind their criticism, then at the end of the day you lose respect for that person, because their aim isn't the truth. Their aim is to hurt, their aim is to just insult. And so that should be our response, is to lose respect for that person. And it's not a bad thing necessarily to lose respect for someone if they're capable of earning that respect back, but that's just the way it is. And if you lose respect for someone because they are not intent on pursuing the truth, then that's actually okay. You don't have to interact with that person and just keep them at arm's length, so to speak. But again, the first option that you should do is to try and have a conversation with that person first. So we've got these three options. Either the first thing, someone says something, makes a criticism, and it's actually true. Second thing is that it is maybe partially true, in which case have a conversation about it and see if you can hash it out. Or the third thing is that they are just blatantly lying and they have no intent on getting towards the truth, in which case you will lose respect for that person and just move on and do something else and interact with those people who are actually pursuing the truth. So those are kind of our options, and I know it's kind of harder than I make it sound, but I really do encourage us, next time we feel like we've been offended at any point in time, to just take those three things on board, and to, instead of getting hugely emotional about the whole thing, to actually just be rational about it. And that's why I say being offended is anti-rational. It's impossible to really be offended if you are acting rationally. This is why I'm a strong advocate of what people call free speech, just as I'm an advocate of so many what we call sort of things that relate to freedom. I love the ideas of free learning, and I love the ideas of free agency, and yeah, I love the ideas of free speech, in terms of people should be able to say whatever they want to say, including criticisms. And because often criticisms can be really valid, and if there's really valid criticisms regarding, for instance, me, or I want to be able to hear those as well. And hopefully if there's substance behind those criticisms, then I can take those and actually learn from them. And that's partially why I make these videos and do this podcast, is so that my ideas are out there, and that it does give opportunity for people to criticize me, and through that criticism I can actually learn. Now of course there'll be criticisms and things that aren't valid, that maybe choose to slander me in some sort of way or whatever, and the more I do this, possibly that will, those will come along as well. But again, I guess there's an opportunity for me to engage with that person should I choose to do so, and we might be able to figure out what exactly the problem is, and again, there's an opportunity for growth or learning. For those people who are just intent on slandering or insulting me, exactly. I lose respect for those people in terms of that I'm not offended by it, but it's not my problem. It's a reflection on them and their character. It's not a reflection on me and my character. So hopefully that's been kind of interesting. I hope you enjoyed this wee episode, and next time you think that you say that, oh, I'm offended, just think about it and wonder, am I really? And what's the rational response that I could take from this, instead of getting these feelings of anger or resentment towards the other person, which maybe they're unnecessarily. Alright, thanks so much. We'll see you again soon. Cheers. Bye.